vlog I've been meaning to do is one on the now pretty tired YouTube topic of being offended. And again, I don't usually cover something unless I think I'm bringing something new to it, and I do think I'd be bringing something new to that. Oh shit, let's see if I can, speaking of new, let's see if I can make it up that. Not very well. Picked pretty much the worst line. That was much better. Anyway, as I was saying, on the subject of being offended, one of the kind of new concepts I'm open to is that when it comes to being offended and this culture of being offended that, you know, people are so just adamantly attacking all the time. And I would say I would count my viewers, like the vast majority of you guys would count yourselves amongst the people who just don't get offended by stuff. You're like, I don't get offended, you know? I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. There's very little that I find offensive as well. I think that intent matters, you know? I find bad intent to be offensive. You know, as long as the intent is to be funny or to make a joke or to open dialogue, then I usually find it impossible to get offended. Now, if you're a bad comedian, if you're not funny and you're trying to make jokes about offensive stuff, well, I'm gonna fucking clown you for not being funny. Because when you start to tackle really offensive stuff, at least be funny, motherfucker, okay? At least make sure you're gonna make people laugh. Otherwise, you're just grabbing onto that offensive stuff for shock value, and that's pretty fucking lazy in my mind. But on to the offended, the social justice warriors, those people who are up in arms, ready to defend the defenseless and take to the streets with their signs. The opposite of you watching this, you know. Every stereotype you can imagine, right? The kind of person who is offended by anything. The kind of person who can't take a joke. The kind of self-entitled asshole who just wants everybody else to conform to them, and if their gentle sensibilities in any way get bruised, then, well, we better change the whole fucking world just so you don't have to get your pretty little feelings hurt. You know the kind of person I'm talking about? Good. Now let me tell you. Think of the opposite of that. That's not you. That's not most of my viewers. But think of the opposite person. Think of the person who just sees anything that's offensive. Let's say is watching this video and hears me say faggot. Hey, the word faggot, right? Now he's going to go like, oh shit, man. Someone is going to be offended by that. He is immediately on the defensive. He might even be like scanning the comment section right now, looking for someone who's just up in arms because I said faggot. And he's just going to lay into him. He's going to go, oh, you're allowed to say it's America. You're allowed to say whatever you want. And why don't you take your social justice bullshit fucking home, man? Say faggot all day long. Faggot, 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 faggot. Okay, so the intent there is not because I enjoy using the word faggot, although I do use it. The intent there is to make a point. Like I said, intent matters. So let me tell you, this person who's so ready to search out a transgression and just dig his heels in the ground and defend it to the end, and just immediately look for someone who's offended and go like, are you offended by this? Well, let me tell you what, why don't you just shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of my face with your offended sensibilities. That person is just as much at fault for the culture that we live in now. This, you know, I'm offended culture where you can't say anything without a million people being up in arms. The person who's ready to defend it just so hard, anything, who's ready to just go, you're not allowed to be offended, shut the fuck up. That person is just as much at fault as the stereotypical social justice warrior, sign-carrying, Black Lives Matter, I'm offended by everything crowd. Both these people are part of the problem. And the problem is this. People are allowed to be offended. You know, you're allowed to be offended. Be offended, that's fine. The problem exists is that when these two people start fighting, and the internet allows you to do that, is that when one person is offended, and the other person says they're not allowed to be offended, and they dig their heels in the ground, and the other side dig their heels in the ground, and all of a sudden you have two people who are just always ready to fight at the drop of a hat. So I just think it's important to note that you're allowed to be offended. Please be offended. I'd be lying if I'd say there was things that don't offend me sometimes. I've been offended. Newsflash, shade tree surgeon has been offended before. It fucking happens. The problem comes when you're just ready for a fight. And nowadays, both sides are ready for a fight. And they just want to point blame. One side says, well, we're ready for a fight because you're so fucking offended and you're ruining everything. And the other side says, well, we're ready for a fight because, these people are under attack even more than they've ever been now because they're experiencing new liberties and people don't like it. And you just have two sides that are, it's a puddle of gasoline just waiting for a match. I don't know. I just think it's very important to note that there are two sides here, and they both carry equal blame, I think. It's easy to clown the social justice warrior who's crying and offended over everything. That's an easy person to make fun of. Hell, I've made fun of that person plenty myself. But you gotta admit, they are not the only party at fault here. I'm not even saying the offensive content is at fault. I'm just saying this just gut reaction to just defend anything. And just defend it to the death too, and just absolutely silence people, and say you're not allowed to be offended. I don't agree with that. People are allowed to be offended. Now, for the people who are offended, what you got to realize is sometimes when you're offended, what you got to do is just be offended and then get the fuck over it. It's going to happen. We live in an offensive world. So be offended by all means, but don't expect the entire world to change just because your sensibilities have been offended, okay? Anyway, that's just, something I've been wanting to tackle in a longer form video. Not exactly the most popular thing. I'm sure a lot of people will see it as, some, gay liberal commie agenda, fucking shade tree surgeon defending social justice warriors. It's not that, man. I'm not defending anybody. I'm just saying, let's promote dialogue instead of shutting down arguments. When people are offended, they're offended for a reason, so we can talk instead of just silencing completely. That goes for both sides. We just live in this black and white culture where, if you have a differing opinion, or if I don't like your opinion, instead of allowing your opinion to exist, I just want your opinion to be obliterated. I don't want it to be anywhere. I don't want it to exist anywhere near me. It's not allowed. It's not allowed to happen. Again, both sides. That's both sides. I don't know. Again, that's not something I can really tackle while I'm on the dirt bike. That'd be a talking head vlog, more than like.